or Bastion City. Well, good day everyone. First of all, thank you much for the RootedCON organization for giving us the opportunity of participating in this session. And for us it is a great honor and giving a party that we share with all of you and with the community to participate in the 10th edition of RootedCON. So to set the context of this presentation, first of all I'll introduce myself. My name is Miguel Rodríguez. I work in the public sector in cybersecurity for the last few years, and lately I do participate in cybersecurity congresses. I've been at the CCNC Working Days, Thematica, Cybercamp, and lately I've been working for the City of Madrid, and today I'm here as the CIO or CISO because I work at the technology unit of Zarancón. A small fictitious city or municipality. So in Spain we have 8,000 municipalities, and most of them have few citizens. They're mostly small municipalities with few employees, and historically the changes they've had in technology have to do with having department IT to internal employees. Usually and traditionally they had a network with a series of PCs and printers, so it was department IT. At some point these municipalities felt compelled to give services to citizens through the website and often through the mobile. And now we're at a point when these municipalities, due to smart cities and other technological innovations, have led to a situation where the city is not the city, it has electronic administration. When we talk about protecting the municipality, we're talking about protecting the city, because we will have SCADA, IoT and many complex things. And to help protect each municipality, we have the CCNC guides, guidelines you may know. We have conferences on the industry and the community, such as Rooted, this conference, which is very geared towards hacking. And then we have industry and service suppliers that either have packaged services that are no frills and well standardized, or giving very specialized services, but there is no comprehensive package of services to do an approach on building and defense for infrastructure. And that's what we want to focus on, construction and defense, and that will be the approach we'll have throughout the presentation. So first of all, before we continue, I'd like to check the colors of Rooted. Out of all of you here, please raise your hand if you have a more red team approach according to your work and personal preference. Thank you. Anyone who is kind of in the middle? And which of you feel more attracted by the blue team? Please raise your hand. Okay. Well, it's kind of even. Let's keep going, and we thought that the approach would be rather red team. Sometimes we see too much red, because when we come to RootedCON, it looks like tackling pen testing is better. Out of all of you here, who works in the public sector? Mainly, is there anyone who works protecting municipalities? There's some people over there and here at the front. If you don't work in municipalities, you could also be service suppliers here with any of these municipalities. Do you live in any municipality where you're interested in getting good services? Yes, I guess so. Nobody of you live in cities or municipalities? Well, let me introduce myself. I am Guillermo Obispo. I'm also a civil servant, despite what I may look like. My boss thinks the same thing, and I work at the General State Administration in cybersecurity. My name is Guillermo Obispo, but most of you who may know me as Willy. And here's my Twitter name if you want to send me nudes or anything. But please do not get scared. I could actually be a hacker right now, and it'd be okay. We have hackers amongst us. They're usually recognized because usually they have letters in their name. They have balaclava even in summer, and they eat children for breakfast. So if I was a hacker, I would do Nazi hacker things, such as watching porn, which is very hacker-like. I would use the screens with background and letters that move on their own, and I would think of how to earn a living by attacking careless people in fragile places that may be simple to attack because they give me prestige, money, or because they bug me. But I could do those kind of things anyway. And maybe you haven't thought about it, but where you live, there are municipalities and cities that are careless and fragile, and in theory, we could attack them. I just wanted you to remember that idea, just in case I use it later. Okay, so my name is Jose Angel Alvarez. I'm also a civil servant, and I've been working on cybersecurity for about 18 years in the public sector. Recently, I just joined the city of Madrid, and here I'm also here as a team member of the Zarancón technology team, giving our perspective on the building part, about how to build systems and safe networks, secure networks. So, where is Zarancón, you may wonder? Some of you may be Googling it, so please let me know the results you get. So Zarancón, we're quite lucky because we are just in between two cities where some of the most famous hackers of this country were born. Here's that idea so that you can talk about it amongst yourselves.
See if you can tell who comes from Móstoles and who comes from Zaragoza. So Zarancón has approximately 100,000 inhabitants, and as Miguel Angel was saying, this makes it a bit of an uncomfortable situation because a small city councils, I don't know if you know, the services are provided by the regional government. They do not have to bother much, but when they are bigger, over 2,000 inhabitants at least, they have a budget and they have staff. And as Miguel Angel was saying, this middle size is a complicated one. We have some 500 public employees that we have to provide service to. Out of those 500 employees, there are 10 people who are in charge of all the technological stuff, and among those 10, maybe the smartest ones or not, is in charge of taking care of security. Because we have a certain size, we also have to take care of the citizens' sensors and those sort of things. And as Miguel Angel was saying, we have many more things, the Internet of Things, with traffic lights, cameras for security, all of that makes life more complicated for us. We don't have that many resources, but we do have these pressures, and this is the scenario for Zarancón. So let's start. What could a hacker do? Somebody who wants to attack Zarancón? Just to have some fun. The first thing we could do is to scan known ports, looking for vulnerable access points, what we call a fingerprint. This is something basic. We don't need to be great stars to get here. What I need to say with this is that our city halls are exposed so that any person who's studying computing and buys a book from Pablo González, who's probably around, and could do, to begin with, fingerprinting. But I could also sort of up the bet and look for known vulnerabilities or do physical intrusion techniques. It is very complex, as you can tell, accessing City Hall and perhaps introducing a pen drive with malicious software, and you can all imagine the type of situation we're describing. Okay, I'm not worried because in Zarancón we've done our homework, we've worked hard, and we have developed a network and security architecture which is very robust. There are few employees, we have plenty of things to do, and the business is asking for more and more services, and we have a lot of budget because the area we're in, we have a very close by a high-speed train station, and so we've received a lot of money, and all of our services are in cloud. We all work with everything as a service, and we segment and the perimeter, the interconnections perimeter, and we have an internet connection, RED, SARS, and I make a difference between SCADA and Internet of Things. The dirty networks are the ones with the user traffic, and the clean ones are the other ones. And for that, we have a control system in which the clean networks basically have some controls that are based on the fact that only known traffic has to go through those. And on the dirty networks, we have behavior analysis systems to detect anomalies because we don't have that many employees, so it's relatively easy to detect them. So we have to implement LAC and ciphering or encryption as for any communication that we have. So I'm sorry, but you're going to have a hard time. Okay, no problem. If we can't get anywhere there, we're going to know the typical framework for exploit of vulnerabilities, and we're going to search what's the low-hanging fruit, but we can also be more efficient and think that Zarancón probably will have critical infrastructure, supplies, water, traffic lights. Perhaps we could also try to do an attack on some physical infrastructure. That wouldn't be bad, so that's always an option. Well, in this case, as we've tried to mitigate this type of attack with the same idea that Miguel Angel has described, not so much because it's trendy, but because we are convinced that we must provide as many services as we can in all of the infrastructures that we can, always to have them as a service. If we can find a solution of software as a service, we will prioritize it, not because it's trendy, but because we're talking about infrastructure, so we want to reduce the software and middleware layer that would entail a lot of work in terms of patching and so on. So we're going to fortify all of our equipment using the indications of the guidelines of the CCM. I'm sure you're all familiar with them, but you all know how valuable they are. Some are complex, but it's a valuable source that we make the most of, and we try to patch regularly all of our machines, always thinking and always with the priorities of from the perimeter to the center. So all the services that are connected to the outside world have to be updated, and we're going to devote special thought to our administrators that will usually be good but have important privileges, and therefore we have to focus on them. So we're going to focus on them, particularly on the double authentication. You know that Google was showing off, saying that they had sorted all of the phishing problem and the credentials stealing with this strategy. As to the operations, we have an active directory, but two ideas that can make things hard for whoever wants to give us trouble is the LAPS, so that our administrator is is, and I hope that in your organization there's not a single password that gives access to everything. And in the PAW, also for administrators, when they do their tags, they should do it in devoted stations. And with that, we are going to make life much harder for our hacker friend, and we're going to make things hard for him. And we forget something else. There's that I was forgetting. It's to try not to make things easy for whoever's coming to attack us. Something as simple as the fact that our services do not confess the PHP or Java that they're using, that they do not confess it quickly. That's very easy to do. And if you're on the other side, it's always possible to find out which version you're using, no doubt, but it takes longer. Okay, so they won't let us in that way, so we're gonna, all of our city councils, they publish their, we always can resort to SQL or injection, the techniques of the cross-site scripting, and as they were saying earlier on, we could actually do a man in the middle and go beyond that and see if we can get something out of there from a man in the middle, or a hash pad. That's also a technique to steal credentials. I'm going to ask my my colleagues to go a bit faster because we're running out of time. No problem, I'm not worried. In Zarancón, we've done our homework also with development. There's a lot of talk about DevSecOps, but we've been working for years on secure development, design, privacy, everything's under control. Minimum security controls. OWASP has to be there. We talk a lot about training, but the training is missing in our organizations, and then the testing as part of the life cycle of the software development. Security testing is not just enough to imagine that things are done. You have to test them, audit as the final control stage. So we've said we are in cloud, so we need to have specific measures for the cloud, the WAF and CASB. Identity management, that's very important. We have that completely covered in Zarancón, in the management of privileged accounts. Beyond the measures that José Ángel has mentioned, the PAM for all critical account that we're worried about, and for data protection, DLP, and in some cases encryption whenever the data require it, but DLP as a fundamental protection measure. Okay, so we'll close the circle by saying if they're closing more and more doors, let's think about users, identifications. We could try to use social engineering techniques to extract. This is always the easiest point, the softest or the weakest link, and use phishing or with small kits for specific software that they might be using in the city council. I guess something of what we show is perhaps being used in city halls of those of you that you say you do not live in, and we could probably get to there, and from then on to escalate. So what have we proposed to defend ourselves from this sort of attack? Well, the operating system are rightly fortified. We are aware that it's difficult to apply 100% of the CCM guidelines and for everything to keep on working, but we can apply it partially. We are careful with the potential victims of phishing, and in a couple of weeks we're going to take measures against that. We're going to minimize the installed software. The more software, the more updating work we have, and harder it's going to be. The ideal scenario is just the operating system and our browser, and to keep those those options updated. In the antivirus, everybody is aware that you cannot live with the basic protection. It takes money, but life is hard. And something very important, our users are not administrators. I guess that's how it is in your city councils. Our users are not administrators, and our administrators are not users. They do not serve strange pages with administrators' credentials or rights, and something to do with mobility. And we bet on mobiles becoming the entry to our double authentication, double two-factor authentication. This is the Zarancón scenario, in the one we have to go towards. There are many talks about how to break the passwords, and many tweets saying it doesn't matter how good your password is, you can break it in, and that's true. Therefore, we must have a two-factor authentication. Well, having heard all of this, if I were an attacker aiming to attack Zarancón, we have the measures are perhaps not complete, but there will be probably much easier places to break, and they're there. And your city hall, the ones who work in city halls or provide service, or you enjoy the services from a city hall, is there any hacker in the room? They're very shy today. Just think about it. Even if you're not hackers, think which one would be easier to attack. Do you want to attack a city like Zarancón, or rather to come and attack any other public body or city council that perhaps is not implementing all of these things? So, to summarize and as a conclusion, we wanted to give you a number of key ideas. Increase the visibility of your internal and reduce the attack, the surface, and then some minimum control to implement in local government. It's very important to have this minimum base of controls compared to what the CCCN proposes. We believe there are small organizations that cannot even consider the study or the debate. So rather than having a basic line of controls that would generate services packages in the sector, which within what we have said does not exist today to give coverage to these local governments, which in fact are small organizations that are not so different from an SME. So when we talk about the information security and SMEs, we have to take this value chain into account and these ecosystems as well. And finally, we are not alone in Zarancón, and you are not alone if you work in the public sector. Last year, I decided to launch a cybersecurity community. It's called ProTap. It protects public administrations, and we can give you support in anything you need. And we've been working in a number of topics that you can see listed in the slide. Yes, the community was set up in 2018. Some crazy guys joined because we thought that gave meaning to our lives. We all share the same problems, and we are not sharing enough. Despite certain initiatives, we are not sharing enough. So there was very quickly an internal forum in which all employees, because it is internal, we feel comfortable sharing certain concerns, and we started participating in talks and our ideas were very active in social networks, and this year we've set up our webpage, and we're very proud of having participated here in this conference. And just to finish, I see some people are hungry. And I'm hungry myself, but I wanted to say that one of the immediate challenges of next year aims to make the community build a collection of standard forms for the contracting of services for the community. So those of you who are public employees, come home, and since you have nothing better to do, I wanted to ask for something else. It's the first time I'm here, and I think it will be the last, but I want a picture with you to show it to my mother. Can you all stand up and we can say goodbye with the hymn of Zarancón?